section of the course, we're going to go and take an in-depth look at the lookalike audiences. Now, in the last video, I showed you how to create a lookalike audience. But in this one, I'm going to go a little bit more in depth about some of the best practices with lookalike audiences, as well as some of the different options. So to do that, just go ahead and select the Create Audience button, select Create a Lookalike Audience, and then the options will show up. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about is the location. So basically, with the location, you want to choose the country that you're trying to find additional customers from. This can be any country, so Spain, Mexico, the United States, Canada, etc. Any country that you're trying to find additional customers from, you can go ahead and target. And then if you really want to get smaller and more targeted, you can actually use some geo-targeting or interest-based targeting later on to sort of trim the fat, so to say, and to really get a good targeted ad. So let's go ahead and talk about the source now. Generally, whenever you're creating a lookalike audience, you want this audience to be based off of your strongest customers. So people who are on your mailing list, anybody that's purchased from you, people that have a high lifetime value. The reason being is that whenever you create this lookalike audience, you're going to try to find people who are similar to that. And so you always want it to be the people who are similar to your best customers. So that way you can go ahead and find people who people who are similar to this to that source of data. Let me see. Also, funny enough, you can actually create a customer list of people who look like your worst customers to go ahead and create another lookalike audience from. Now that sounds a little silly at first, but you can create this customer list. So after you've created this lookalike audience based off of your worst customers, you can go ahead and exclude them. So you're actively not seeking out the people who, the people who are just bad, the people who are bad customers. So like those guys that have maybe had repeated return purchases, or maybe they just provided a bad customer experience for you. You can go ahead and try to expand. You can go ahead and try to find people who are just like that and exclude them in your targeting, which is great. Okay, so now let's talk about this audience size option. Basically, the size is going to be they're numbered 0 through 10, and basically what this means is it's just the percentage of the population that looks like that source of data. So 1% is going to be 1% of, let's just say, the United States. 1% of the total United States population that looks like that source of data. So let's say purchasers from our pixel. And then same thing for 10%. Now, as you kind of expand, that 10% is going to be obviously more broad because that's 10% of the whole United States population, which is going to be around, like, I want to say to 20 to 30 million people. Yeah, it's going to be around 20 to 30 million people. So that's pretty big. And so obviously not everybody in that audience is going to be as strongly correlated with some of your purchasers as that source of data. However, they're still good, and you can still use this 10% audience to run advertisements with. But you can kind of start them off as at the top of the funnel and then drag them down. So hopefully people within this audience will eventually become customers after they've gone through your funnel. Now, whenever you're creating a lookalike audience, it's a good thing to keep in mind that you can create this audience from 100 people minimally, but to have an optimal experience, you need at least 1,000 people. So it's either on your mailing list or at least 1,000 people on your purchase pixel. So if we go here, once you've got everything set up, your source, your location, and you have your audience size figured out, if you select Show Advanced Options, you can create multiple audiences at once, which I highly recommend. The reason being is these audiences take about 24 to 48 hours to create. And so if you want to go ahead and test a bunch of lookalike audiences out at once, and you're creating them one at a time, there might be some time because, like I said, they usually take 24 to 48 hours to create. So there might be some time variation. You really want them to all finish at once. So it's best to do that with the advanced options, and to go ahead and like I said, create those multiple audiences. But from here, it's always a good best practice to have the 0 to 1 selected, and then the 1 to 2, then the 1 to 2%, because these are going to be some of your best customers as well. After that, it's kind of up to you. You can go ahead and select 3 audiences, 6 audiences. If this is something that's very, very correlated, let's say people that have a high lifetime value and you have a lot of them, I would recommend go ahead and creating just as many audiences as you can from this, and then just kind of segmenting them out just a little bit, kind of like that as I've shown in the example. Just because, let me see, if you have a lot of data, the more data you can give Facebook, the better. So if you have a lot of data, then these lookalike audiences are going to be very, very strongly correlated with your purchasers. And so you're going to try to create, so it's going to be a good idea to test out as many of those strongly correlated audiences as possible. Anyways, guys, that has been lookalike audiences, best practices, and a little bit more in-depth information about them. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a private message, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. But other than that, that's it for this video. Take it easy.